The rain that morning wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic thunder or cleansing flood. It was the kind that seeps in slowly, a gray mist turning to drizzle, turning to something you can taste on your lips when you step outside. It gets under doors, into the fabric of your coat, into your bones until even your dreams feel damp. I remember standing at the window, watching it snake down the glass, the street below glazed like dark candy. Portland rain doesn't fall. It lingers. It's patient, like regret. I didn't know yet that my uncle had taken the house. My name is Mara Keene. This is my story. I'd always been the kind of woman who believed in second chances. I believed that if you worked hard, kept receipts, paid bills, smiled at people in coffee shops, the world might not reward you, but at least it wouldn't crush you. That was before I learned that family can be more dangerous than any stranger. Uncle Victor Keene had been my father's younger brother. The charming one, the self-made one, the man who could talk bankers into smiles and baristas into free muffins. After my parents died, 10 years apart, both quietly, both too early, he was the only family I had left. At holidays, he'd send expensive bottles of wine and sleek cards printed with phrases like, "keep moving forward" and "dream in square footage." He was a real estate developer, of course. Everyone in this city seemed to be. When I bought the brownstone, it felt like defiance. My divorce was barely finalized. I'd spent 2 years living in a rental overrun by mold and noise, teaching night classes and editing resumes to survive. The brownstone was small, half-renovated, but it had these old oak floors that creaked in a way that felt honest. I used my settlement money as a down payment and borrowed the rest. Victor offered to help with the closing. He said he knew people at the bank, could negotiate better terms. He talked about protecting family assets, about simplifying ownership structures. I let him handle the paperwork. I was tired. I trusted him. Trust. That word has teeth. The day I signed the documents, rain pounded the roof of the lawyer's office like 1,000 typewriters gone mad. Victor smiled, that soft investor's smile that suggests benevolence while calculating percentages. I didn't read everything. My hand cramped halfway through the stack. Initials here, signature there. When I left, I remember thinking the air smelled like ozone and coffee and promise. 2 months later, I received a letter from the county recorder's office. The name on the property title had changed. Ownership transferred to Keene Development Holdings, LLC. My house. My name nowhere. I called him, voice shaking. He answered as if he'd been expecting the call. He said it was just a temporary adjustment for refinancing. Said it would increase liquidity and help me build equity faster. He spoke in the soothing tone of men who've lied before and gotten away with it. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe I hadn't been stupid enough to sign away the only stable thing I'd built. So I waited. A month later, I found the listing online. For sale, newly renovated urban gem in historic district. The photographs were mine. My curtains, my mismatched kitchen tiles, the plants I'd nurtured in chipped ceramic pots. The caption read, "Staged for optimal flow." He had sold it. When I confronted him in person, I did it politely, because that's how women are trained to be, even when the ground is giving way. We met in a coffee shop on Burnside, rain streaking the windows. He wore a crisp gray suit and an expression of mild inconvenience. He told me it wasn't personal, that it was business, that I should have read what I signed. Something inside me snapped then. Not loudly, not like a branch, but like a thread tightening around the throat of my patience. I moved into a sublet above a Vietnamese bakery, one of those apartments that smells permanently of sugar, yeast, and exhaust. The walls were paper thin. I could hear the neighbor's baby crying, the couple fighting, the rain against the drain pipe. I worked late shifts editing grant proposals, sometimes falling asleep at my desk. My friends told me to sue. I couldn't afford to. A lawyer's retainer was more than my monthly rent. Victor knew that. He sent a Christmas card that December, a photograph of him and his wife, smiling beside a tree trimmed with silver ornaments. "Hope this year brings you peace," it read. Peace. That was when I started keeping a notebook beside my bed, jotting down lines, phrases, scraps of memory. At first it was therapy. Then it became something else, a weapon in blueprint form. He took the house, but he hasn't taken the story. I wrote that sentence on a blank page one night, the words inked deep enough to indent the next 3 sheets. It became a refrain, a lifeline. I didn't know yet how I'd use it, only that I would. I began to watch him the way writers watch characters, attentively, impersonally, with growing fascination. His social media was a gallery of perfection: charity galas, business panels, rooftop views, captions about legacy. Local magazines called him the man rebuilding Portland's soul. Meanwhile, I sat in my damp apartment, staring at the water stain spreading across the ceiling. Every time I thought of him, I imagined the house, the way the rain used to sound on its old tin gutters, the faint mold smell that somehow comforted me. Home, after all, is not a structure but a story you tell yourself until someone rewrites it for profit. And I promised myself I would take the pen back. It started as research. That's how I justified it. Late at night, between freelance deadlines, I would open incognito tabs and search his name. Not just the glossy articles, but the legal filings, the financial records, the small print clauses. Portland's digital archives are surprisingly generous if you know where to look. I found patterns: shell companies, property transfers, zoning variances. Victor's empire was a latticework of plausible legality. Every moral gray area signed in triplicate. He hadn't broken laws. He'd bent them until they forgot their original shape. I realized something then. I couldn't destroy him through the system that protected him. I would have to use the one thing he didn't understand: perception. In this century, reputation is currency. Narrative is leverage. He'd taught me that, even if he didn't mean to. So I created Nora Lang. Nora was a composite of everything Victor respected: educated, articulate, politically aware, slightly mysterious. She had a LinkedIn profile with real-looking endorsements, a Twitter account that reposted housing policy threads, and a Substack called The Ethical Ledger. I gave her a professional headshot generated by AI and a resume stitched from truth and fiction. Her bio read, "Independent researcher focusing on transparency and ethics in real estate development." Then I began posting articles, well-written, data-driven pieces about gentrification, zoning corruption, and the moral cost of urban renewal. They gained traction fast. Portland loves a progressive critique, especially when it comes packaged in eloquent indignation. 3 weeks later, Victor commented on one of Nora's posts. "Excellent insights. Nora, would love to connect," and that's how it began. Our first messages were professional. He praised my balanced tone. I responded with polite curiosity about his projects. Soon we were exchanging long emails about public-private partnerships and community trust. He loved the phrase community trust. He used it like armor. I attended a development conference under Nora's name, wearing glasses and a black coat. He spoke on a panel titled Building Hope, the Future of Urban Housing. I sat 3 rows back, taking notes as if I were a student of my own undoing. He was brilliant, persuasive, infuriating. He spoke about restoring dignity to neglected neighborhoods. I counted how many times he said integrity. It was 11. Afterward, I introduced myself. He shook my hand, his palm warm, confident. He didn't recognize me. Of course he didn't. To him, women like me, nieces, employees, tenants, blur into background figures of his own success story. That night, he emailed me a proposal to collaborate on a community impact study. I smiled at the screen. The rain outside was relentless, hissing against the metal awning. Over the next few months, I wove a web of narrative threads around him. Through Nora's posts, I gently questioned certain practices in Portland's housing market: anonymous LLCs, developer tax credits, donation laundering. I never accused. I only asked. The internet did the rest. Someone on Reddit cross-referenced corporate filings. A local activist group picked up the thread. Within weeks, Victor's name began surfacing in comment sections with words like exploitative and corrupt. He didn't panic at first. He reached out to Nora saying, "I'm worried about misinformation. We need to get ahead of it." I told him transparency was the best defense. "Publish your records," I said. "Show people your honesty." He took my advice, and in doing so, he exposed himself completely. Donations to city council campaigns. Payments disguised as consulting fees. Quiet buyouts of low-income tenants. All legal on paper, all damning in spirit. The articles multiplied. Journalists began calling. His PR team scrambled to issue statements. He told Nora, "You were right. Optics matter more than ever." By then, the line between my two selves had blurred. Mara felt invisible. Nora felt invincible. But at night, the guilt crawled in with the rain through the window cracks. I'd lie awake, hearing it drip from the gutters, each drop a small confession. "You wanted justice," the rain said. "No," I whispered back. I wanted to matter. When he finally called Nora directly, his voice raw, pleading, it almost undid me. "I don't know who's behind all this," he said. "I just wanted to build something good," I almost told him then. Almost said my real name, my real wound. But the words caught. Instead, I said the line that would finish him. "Then tell your story, Victor." "Let people see your heart," he did. And it destroyed him. The first domino fell on a Tuesday. A minor journalist, one of those self-styled investigative bloggers who blend facts with fury, published a piece titled "The Saint of Zoning." It praised Victor in the opening paragraph, then skewered him with the receipts he himself had uploaded in his campaign for transparency. Donations to city officials. Quiet acquisition of distressed properties. Community initiatives that displaced entire blocks. The story spread through Twitter like oil on wet pavement. I watched it happen in real time, rain streaking the windows of my apartment, the city's skyline dissolving into gray. I refreshed again and again, the way you press a bruise just to see if it still hurts. By evening, the article had been reposted by 3 local outlets. Comments multiplied. "He's another vulture. All these developers are the same. Someone should audit him." Victor messaged Nora that night. His words came in broken intervals, as if typed between gulps of air. "Can you believe this? They twisted everything. People are canceling meetings. You understand the media, you can help me, can't you?" I stared at his message for a long time before replying. "You should issue a statement, Victor. The truth will speak for itself." Even as I typed it, the irony stung. He issued that statement the next morning. A bland public relations paragraph about misrepresentations, commitment to transparency, and continued service to the community. It did nothing. Screenshots of his financial filings circulated faster than apologies. The city that had once toasted him at charity galas now treated him like contagion. Real estate forums blacklisted him. A local podcast invited a housing activist to dissect his empire. Someone started a thread titled "Developers to Avoid in 2025. His name appeared first. I told myself I wasn't celebrating, that I was merely observing cause and effect. But when I closed my laptop, my reflection stared back from the black screen. And there was something in my eyes, something raw, electric, and not entirely human. Portland in spring smells like wet earth and exhaust. Every block looks half-finished, half-erased, scaffolding, cranes, puddles collecting cigarette ends. It's a city always under revision, which makes it a perfect place to disappear. I'd begun deleting Nora's traces weeks earlier, anticipating what would come. Burner emails closed, VPNs scrubbed. Still, I kept one folder, a digital reliquary of messages between us. Proof. Not for law, but for memory. He called once more, 2 weeks after the first article. His voice was hoarse, unsteady. "I can't sleep," he said. "They're calling me a fraud. The board wants me out." "You'll recover," I said softly. "People forget." He laughed, short and bitter. "Do they?" That laugh haunted me. It wasn't cruel. It was frightened. For the first time, I realized how similar we were, 2 people rewriting reality to survive. The real collapse came with the audit. One of his investors, a faceless fund from San Francisco, initiated a review of his books. Within days, they froze his accounts. News outlets ran headlines about financial irregularities. His wife, whom he'd paraded across social media as the emblem of their perfect life, deleted her profiles and moved north. Every time I refreshed a page, his face appeared smaller, more pixelated, as though the internet itself was erasing him. One evening, I stood outside his former office building. Rain hammered the sidewalk, flattening the reflections of red taillights into bleeding smears. The lobby lights were off. A foreclosure notice was taped to the glass door. Someone had spray-painted "thief" across the concrete wall. I felt no triumph, only a hollow, echoing quiet. Across the street, a homeless man was sheltering beneath an awning, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Need work, any work." I wanted to hand him money, but my hands stayed in my pockets. I kept thinking about how easily stories shift. The villain of one headline becomes the victim of another. That night, I couldn't sleep. I dreamed of rain filling my old house, rising through the floors, lifting furniture until it floated like wreckage. And Victor standing there, arms spread, asking if I was satisfied yet. I woke gasping. The next morning, a notification blinked on my phone. Breaking. Local developer hospitalized after panic attack. The article said he'd collapsed in a downtown cafe, mid-meeting. No foul play suspected. He was recovering privately. The comments were merciless. Karma's quick these days. Guess guilt finally hit him. I set the phone down carefully, like a weapon I no longer wanted to hold. Later that afternoon, as if fate couldn't resist irony, I received an invitation. Storytelling conference, the power of narrative justice. They wanted me, Mara, to speak. Not Nora, me. My essay about losing the house had gained traction after the exposé. People wanted to hear more about reclaiming agency through narrative. I said yes. Preparing for that talk, I realized how far the revenge had carried me from myself. The essay had started as therapy, then morphed into manifesto, then mythology. People quoted me now. Strangers thanked me online for inspiring resilience. They didn't know the cost. The night before the conference, I took a long walk along the Willamette River. The air was heavy with the metallic scent of rain and mud. Barges glided silently under the bridges. I thought about how stories, once set free, float beyond their makers, adrift, ungovernable. He took the house, but he hasn't taken the story. I whispered it again, this time with a bitterness that tasted like rust, because now the story had taken me. The conference hall was full, hundreds of faces turned toward me. I stood behind the podium, the stage lights blinding, and spoke about narrative reclamation, about turning pain into power. I didn't name Victor, but everyone in Portland already knew who he was. They applauded at the end. Standing ovation. I smiled for them, a performer finishing a well-rehearsed act. Inside, I felt the rain beginning again, slow, inevitable, cleansing nothing. Afterward, a young woman approached me, eyes bright. "Your piece gave me courage to leave my toxic boss," she said. I thanked her, managed to smile. But as she walked away, guilt spread through me like water under wallpaper, unseen but unstoppable. I checked my phone later. No new messages, no new headlines, silence. That was how I knew the damage was complete. He found me by accident. At least that's what I tell myself. It was a gray afternoon in May, the kind where rain drizzles like static. I'd gone to a cafe near Pioneer Square, one of those places with Edison bulbs and concrete tables. I was halfway through my second cup when I looked up, and there he was. Victor, thinner, paler. The swagger replaced by something smaller, human. He wore a coat too large for his frame. His hair, once perfectly styled, clung damply to his forehead. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he crossed the room. "Mara," he said. My name sounded brittle in his mouth. I didn't answer. He set his cup down, sat across from me as if invited. The rain tapped softly on the glass behind him. "I read your article," he said. I sipped my coffee. "You're a good writer." I didn't reply. He laughed once, quietly. "You destroyed me, you know." Still, no response. He leaned forward. "I'm not angry. I just want to understand why." Why? As if there could be one clean reason, one sentence that explained the years of quiet rage, the nights replaying signatures, the echo of his voice saying, "It's just business." Finally, I said, "You taught me how stories shape value. I just learned to write one." He stared at me, eyes searching for something, remorse, apology, maybe permission to hate me. Instead, I gave him nothing. He nodded slowly. Then he stood, left a few bills on the table, and walked out into the rain. I watched him go, his figure dissolving into the gray street. For a long time, I sat there listening to the hum of espresso machines, the clatter of cups, the steady rhythm of rain. Life goes on, indifferent. In the months that followed, I became a kind of local figurehead for ethical storytelling. Universities invited me to speak. Book agents reached out. People quoted lines from my essay on social media, especially that refrain. "He took the house, but he hasn't taken the story." They didn't know how wrong they were. Because the story had taken everything. Sleep, trust, simplicity, peace. Some nights, when the rain is especially heavy, I dream of that brownstone, the one with the creaky floors and the tin gutters. In the dream, the lights are still on, and I'm standing at the window while someone knocks from outside. I open the door, but it's not Victor. It's me. Another version, the one who never wrote, never plotted, never became a ghost behind another name. She looks tired but uncorrupted. She says, "You could have just walked away." I always wake up before I answer. One afternoon, about a year later, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name written in uneven handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Mara," it read. "I've left Portland. I'm starting over somewhere it doesn't rain so much. I hope you find whatever peace you were after. V." I folded it carefully, set it beside my notebook, the old one filled with the first angry words, the blueprint of revenge. I hadn't opened that notebook in months. The pages had begun to curl at the edges from moisture. Rain finds everything eventually. Outside, the sky darkened. I stepped to the window. The city below was the same as ever. Cranes, traffic, umbrellas like moving punctuation marks. Life rebuilding itself on ruins. For a moment, I thought of him walking through another city, sun on his face, telling someone a story about a niece who ruined him. Maybe in his version, he's the victim. Maybe in mine, I am too. The truth is never clean. It's wet, heavy, and refuses to dry. The rain began again, soft and endless. He took the house, but he hasn't taken the story. But maybe the story has taken me.